All right, welcome back to another activity in our Summer in Color virtual camp. Right now, we are going to be making our very own bubbles. So, the weather is becoming beautiful outside. We are shifting into the summer season, and if you guys are like me, you are wanting to get outside as much as possible. So, why not have a fun activity to do while you're outside having so much fun in the sun? So, let's get started and make our very own bubbles. Okay, so for this one, you should have the baggie that is labeled DIY Bubbles. And the only thing that you will need to grab for yourself that's not included in this box is a bowl. I would get a pretty big bowl. Parents, if you guys are listening to this one, I would get a bowl that has a lid on it because we're gonna make a pretty big batch, but you guys can save this till later and come back to it. So a bowl with a lid would be great. And then you'll need to get 2 cups of water. I prefer warm water for this activity. So get 2 cups of warm water. Make sure it's not too hot. Just need warm. And then in your baggie, you will have, or in your box, in your bubbles bag, you will have a baggie that has a white substance in it. That is sugar, which is 1/4 cup of sugar, and then 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. And so I have that here. Mine's not in the bag. I just have the bowls, but that's okay. And then you will have 1/4 cup of dish soap that we provided for you already. Okay, so you also need to grab a spoon or something to stir it up with. Okay, so to get started, we're just gonna mix everything together, okay? So we're gonna start with our dish soap. We're gonna pour our dish soap in there. It's gonna turn our water a little bit blue. Scrape out as much as you can so we can get as much in the bowl as possible. And then we're gonna stir it up so we can't really see the substance of the dish soap. We just see the water that's turning blue and a couple bubbles in there already. Stir, stir, stir. All right, so now you guys are gonna find the baggie that has the white powders in it, and you're gonna pour that in there. I'm gonna put mine in one by one, but you guys have the same thing. I'm just gonna do it separately. Okay, so we're gonna pour that bag in there. I'm gonna pour my sugar, stir it up. So the reason I said to get warm water is because it's gonna be easier for us to mix everything together because the warm water is gonna dissolve the powders. Fun fact. Stir, stir, stir. All right, now I'm gonna stir in my cornstarch. So while we're stirring this all up, I'm gonna tell you a fun fact about bubbles. So one of the big things that we can learn from bubbles is something called reflection, or how bubbles get their colors. And so you may be thinking, how do bubbles really get their colors? Because really bubbles are just mixed up with soap and water. And if you think about it, water really doesn't have that much of a color, and sometimes the soap does, but it's really not that much of a color, especially with the bottles that you buy from the store. There's not any color in there. But another element that goes into bubbles is air. So the big 3 things, air, water, and soap, usually are pretty colorless. So when we are out and about and we are blowing the bubbles out in the sun, what's actually happening is that the bubble, which is basically an air sandwich, okay, so the soapy film that is the bubble shape that you see, that's the soapy film, and then entrapped in there is air. Okay, so if you think of it as a sandwich, there's layers in the sandwich, right? So the outside layer of a sandwich is the bread. The bread of the bubble is the soapy film water, okay? And then the inside of your sandwich is like the meat, cheese, or whatever you want to get into there, is the air for the bubble. So what is happening is that the light from the sun is shining onto the top layer, or the top layer of the bubble, which is like the bread, and then there's also light reflecting inside the sandwich. So the lights are just hitting each other, which is causing there to be a rainbow. So what you're seeing is actually a rainbow in the bubbles that's being captured by the light. And it's reflecting, so that's what's happening. Like, it's reflecting off the bubbles. All right, so now we have a bubble solution. So you may be thinking, okay, Miss Tori, so we have the liquid. Now how are we gonna use the bubbles? Stay tuned.